On this Inside Line, I'm recapping my 4,600 mile adventure from Wilmington, North Carolina to Moab, Utah for the annual Easter Jeep Safari. I'm going to give you an update on how the Gladiator's doing and how it did this year on 40s versus how it did last year on 37s, some of the cool trends that I did see at Easter Jeep Safari, and what's next for this Gladiator build. All right, let's get to it. Now, I've been making the drive out from Wilmington to Moab for quite some time, and typically if I'm either towing or it's an early spring and I'm worried about winter weather, I will take I-40. This year I actually took what I call the northern route, which basically puts you on 70 for quite some time. What was neat for me is I finally got to stop by Pikes Peak. I'd been here like 11 years ago and just missed the cutoff for driving up. They closed at about 3 o'clock for traffic going up. Unfortunately, they still had some winter mix past mile marker 14, so that was as high as we were able to make it up. Now, the big thing off-road wise for the Gladiator that I noticed that was significantly different than the 37s is I didn't hit my belly as much. Now, don't get me wrong, this thing is still very long and Wranglers are just way more nimble, but I like the Gladiator and I've been enjoying wheeling it, and moving up to 40s definitely helped with the breakover on it. In terms of my departure angle, I'm still hitting the hitch a lot and the rear bumper, so I still need to do something for that. I don't want to bob the bed. I like having a longer bed, so I've got a plan in works, and we'll just see how that works out. You know, just keep checking on the channel and you'll see what I'll do. Now, I'm running a 40 by 1350 R17 Nitto Trail Grappler. I put these things down to 8 PSI at the start of the week, and that's how I wheeled the rest of the week. These things just work awesome at those single digits. I've got trail ready bead locks and never had a single issue out of the tire or the wheel. It's a really comfortable vehicle in terms of the tire being so large. It just sucks up everything nicely. The Trail Grapplers bite in this red rock incredibly well, so very happy with this tire and wheel package. You know, it's worth mentioning that I am running these Pro Rock XD60 axles. I love these Pro Rocks in terms of I like the stability of them. I know I don't have to worry about breaking an axle with this full float configuration and how conservative I am off-road. The big thing that I noticed that I need to address is that the shocks just don't have enough valving to handle this unsprung weight. For low speed crawling, it's not too bad, but as you get a little bit faster off-road, you can tell that my Fox 2.0s just don't have enough compression valving to handle you know, the 40 and the heavier 60 series axles. So I definitely want to do something to fix that. In terms of trails, this year I ended up spending a lot of time with some fairly large groups, which is a lot of fun because you get to see how different vehicles work and kind of hang out with people you haven't seen in a while, but it kind of burns up your entire day on one trail. This meant I ended up hitting Metal Masher, Steel Bender, Mashed Potato, Top of the World, and Hell's Revenge. I'll hit a couple other little spots, but those are like the main trails. And you know, I've been coming to Moab, I think this is my 17th or 18th time. I've hit a ton of the trails. I think I've actually hit all of the trails at this point. And so I wasn't bummed that I missed out on, you know, going trails, but sometimes it's always this weird balance of, you know, doing these longer trail rides and how it kind of zaps up your day. You know, this year I had my dad with me. He's been coming out the past few years and he really enjoys it. He's not a diehard off-roader by any stretch, but Moab is just a great place to go no matter if you're into off-roading or not. It's just super scenic and he really enjoys it. Unfortunately, I didn't get a ton of footage of my Jeep. And a few times I asked my dad to stand out of the Jeep and, you know, grab a shot. And I thought, oh, I'll give him my phone because everybody can use a phone and they're easy. And so by far the most hilarious set of photos that I got that anyone with a parent can relate to is I handed my dad my phone as I was coming down the main ledge on Steel Bender. I said, hey, just hit record, you know, get it, we'll see what we got. Did I get a video? Nope. Just a handful of finger photos that were, you know, to me even better. It was pretty hilarious, and he's a great dad, but his photography skills need a little work. He'll be 70 years this year, so we'll cut him a little break. It's just always tough when you're trying to film, you know, kind of by yourself or even in a big group, because I typically do a lot of my own filming, and I'm constantly setting up like tripods and drones and things like that. And this year I just didn't get as much chance to do that. So that was a little bit of a bummer just from a content perspective. But now in terms of anything cool that I saw there and sort of, you know, big, I don't know, changes coming to the industry. You know, there are a lot of new products coming, and I'll be showcasing some of that stuff later this year. I think maybe the two biggest shifts that I saw were a lot of guys that were typically on 37s and 40s are moving up to 38s and 42s. That's kind of exciting. You know, 37s have just been sort of the mainstay forever, and now we're seeing a lot of 38s, and I think that's great. I think on Jeep Gladiators, that's a really important tire size. I know the 42 is really kind of becoming sort of the norm. I like 42s. I get a lot of questions why I didn't run 42s on my Gladiator build, and the real honest answer to that is everyone that I had talked to that was running 42s and a gas engine had all told me the same thing, that it constantly is, you just don't have enough gear. Even with a 538, you need like a 617 or something. And I wanted to be able to drive down the highway and overdrive and not have this thing constantly shifting back and forth. So the 40 for me just made more sense. Another thing that I did, and it's an annual stop that I really enjoy, is I'll go check out the dunes. They're right behind the Behind the Rocks trail, and it's just a fun little place to go and take some pictures, and you'll always see somebody looking to air out their Jeep every single year without fail. And this year I just happened to be taking some photos of my Jeep, and I heard someone nail down a 3.6, and I'm like, oh man, I knew it was getting ready to happen. Thankfully I had my camera ready, and I was able to catch this 65-foot launch that could have been really bad, but it ended up being okay. The guys from Iron Rock Off-Road were just having fun with their Ultra 4 JK, and yeah, they sent it a little too hard. Super nice people. Got a chance to chat with the owner and his son, and very cool rig. You know, it's always neat to see. I don't know why everybody wants to jump their Jeep. That is just not something that I have interest in, but I'm always happy to shoot somebody's video if they want to do that. So a few quick housekeeping things. I got asked a few times, with this low a lift, am I rubbing with the 40s? And what I found is I am now rubbing, but I'm not rubbing where I thought I would be. I'm rubbing on this bracket right here. You can see it's got into the tire right there. So I'm actually gonna lob this thing off. This is part of the original inner fender, and get rid of that. I do now have inner fender liners. Got those from Artec, bolted those up a while back. And yes, hydraulic assist gave me zero problems, and I'll have a full video coming soon there. So that's been good. My trim out here has been fine. Still 3 inches of lift in 40s. These are 72.5 inch width axles with 5.5 inches of back spacing. I got a lot of questions about fuel economy and tire pressure for the highway. So I'm running 35 PSI in these 40-inch Nitto Trail Grapplers, and I averaged over 4,600 miles, right at like 12.9 miles per gallon. My best tank was 15. My worst tank was 9.9. Those headwinds are vicious, but this thing will still do 80 miles an hour with one hand on the wheel. Another thing I want to mention, I had some questions about, I mentioned that I had a winch issue in my Windrock video, and I want to explain that a little bit more. So what happened is there's a bolt that the winch rope gets kind of anchored down to, and the bolt broke. And when it did, I had a lot of winch line already out. It allowed it to sort of spool up, which kept the automatic brake from working. Ended up kind of jumping some lines here and messing up my rope. So got a new rope, winch is working great, no issues there, but that's what happened. Sorry if it was a little vague, but that was my issue there. Other than that, Jeep did great. I still have those BeamTech headlights in here. Those bulbs are working great. You know, we had plenty of times that we were driving long distances at night. Another question I get asked a lot is about the sliders. Yes, I'm still running stock Rubicon sliders. I'm just constantly sort of repainting them from where they get hit and things like that. I haven't done anything to the Jeep since I got back from Moab, so you're basically seeing how it was there. Obviously, I hit, you know, the exhaust in a few places, you know, hit the skid plates, all that stuff just happens. Did not hit my rear drive shaft. I'm always nervous about that, but did not have an issue there, so that's great. Still tagging my lower control arms pretty consistently. That is just par for the course with this Jeep. Had a few people ask about my bed cover. So this is the easy roll cover that, if you remember, I did on my Gator Gladiator. Maybe, man, it's been almost 2 years now. Love this cover. I had an easy fold or a rugged ridge cover for this thing. Still have it. The reason I pulled it off, this cover I thought would seal a little bit better. Nothing wrong with the rugged ridge cover. My issue is I use this AA Products rack on here to put my tent on, and it keeps leaving these depressions. And I'm like, oh, I can add more foam. Well, the other cover is like a hard, you know, shell cover. This one's not. So I thought I could maybe add a little bit more foam here and it wouldn't leak so much. And unfortunately, it still leaked and got a lot of dust in here. So I've got a big bed solution that's going to fix a lot of my complaints about this thing, so I'm not worried about that right now. As I kind of showed briefly in the video, you definitely hit your bumper a lot out in Moab, and it's something I'm constantly having to touch up on this thing. You hit your receiver even more, and that's one thing that I'm definitely interested in moving up. So I've got a plan that's basically going to replace this back bumper and a bunch of other stuff, so we'll see from there. Axles have been really solid. I had a little bit of a weird locker issue, not to be super vague there, just it was working fine, but it popped a couple times, and I'm gonna pull the cover just to service the diff anyways and see if I can see what's going on with it. Nothing has failed or anything like that, but it popped a couple times while I was engaging it in a high traction scenario. Just kind of weird, but other than that, man, these things have been pretty bulletproof. As you can see, I paint marked everything before I left so I could crawl underneath here really quickly and see if anything came loose, and thankfully nothing did. I didn't really have to turn a single wrench on this thing while I was there, which was really awesome. So, well, hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. I always enjoy my time in Moab, Utah. I've got a lot of stuff to get back to with my Gladiator. I've got my 392 is up next, getting ready to fine-tune it in my own little way, and I've got some adventures coming up with my solid axle S10 that I keep getting a lot of questions about, so definitely more on that coming to the channel soon. If you have any questions for me, you can always find me at Ali Mansour Editor on Instagram, and if you've got any questions about this video or any of the project vehicles, drop them in the comments. You know, we check that stuff frequently, so I can get back to you as soon as I can. I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope to see you guys on the trail soon. Take care. Bye-bye.